Well, good morning. Having a leisurely start today. I charged up Snowball last night, so she's in pretty good shape. This hotel has two very nice electric vehicle chargers, but they're iced, which means an internal combustion engine car is blocking it. Some people are just selfish. If you look, there's a million parking spaces here, and they just insist on blocking a charging spot. Back in Snowball, ready to start my journey for the day. As you can see, I've got 81% state of charge, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to Memphis, but then I plan to go on to Little Rock, and I just want to check that I don't have to charge. This says it's not very far to the Brinkley supercharger, and I should get there with 42% state of charge. So it'll give me a lot of cushion because I'm going to be driving around looking at some sights in the meantime. I'm just going into IHOP for a leisurely breakfast. I'm trying to only have 2 meals a day because it's going to be hard to keep from gaining weight. But I am going to do that and try to walk a little bit while I'm out and about. I reach Memphis and I'm heading to Graceland, first stop. Wow, this is quite a production. It's more like a theme park than a house or a museum. It turns out that my timing was terrible. Today is the first day of Elvis Week, which is held every year on the anniversary of his death. I talked to one gentleman who was a physics researcher at Stanford. He and his wife each had a $1,300 Platinum Pass package, and they had been in this line for an hour and a half. Apparently, they have to print out each ticket individually and go through various entertainment options and show times for the concerts and other festivities. So it takes at least 20 minutes for a person with a will call ticket to pick up his ticket. I was contemplating leaving when I decided to go up to this VIP window and try to buy a ticket, which I was able to do in a matter of a few minutes. It was $75, but it turns out that's probably the ticket I would have bought anyway. They gave me access to all the exhibit areas. The ticket process is for Elvis Week.
The ticket process is just terrible. It's about an hour and a half wait.
I finally got up to the window, purchased my ticket, and got on the shuttle bus, which was a very short ride, and began my tour of Graceland. This room was used for Elvis's parents. This is probably the most famous room in the house, the Jungle Room, and is without a doubt one of the tackiest rooms you've ever seen. This is Elvis's office, which was carefully staged to make it look as if he were a voracious reader of all topics of books. Throughout recent years, there have been a limited number of people who are instantly recognizable by one name: Plato, Confucius, Liberace, Pele, Bono. These are called mononymous people because they're only known by one name. And I think you'd have to put Elvis Presley in that category. Just simply Elvis. Elvis record sales are off the charts. He has 54 gold records for singles and sold 146 million albums. Now we are in a small structure behind the house which contains, among other things, Elvis's father's office. Elvis and his friends used the smokehouse not only for its intended purpose, but also as a gun range. Elvis maintained a number of horses at Graceland, and he was a very proficient and frequent rider. Elvis died at age 42 and is buried in Graceland in this beautifully done memorial garden, along with many of his immediate family. After exiting the house, I returned via shuttle bus to the Auto Museum and Exhibition Center. Elvis called this the most beautiful car he had ever seen. It's a 1969 Mercedes-Benz 600 limousine, which he purchased used in 1970. There were two other exhibition halls that dealt with Elvis's performances, his costuming, and his music. Elvis was drafted and served 2 years in the Army in Germany. Apparently, he was a good soldier. He said he tried to do a good job because he was sure everybody thought he would be a goof-off, but he attained the rank of sergeant before he was discharged. When Elvis returned home from Germany, he was treated almost like a returning veteran of a war, including a mammoth television special hosted by Frank Sinatra. This was a cute kiosk that takes your picture and emails it to you. My ticket included access to Elvis's 2 airplanes. The insignia on the tail of the airplane, TCB, were initials for his corporate activities and stood for taking care of business in a flash. Before I toured the planes, I opened my Tesla app and noted that the interior temperature of my car was 100 degrees. So I set it to 72. So I walked through the biggest plane, which was a Convair 880, and named Lisa Marie after his daughter. It was pretty impressive, and in its day, I suppose it was probably as nice as Air Force One. Elvis's smaller plane was a Lockheed Jetstar. After leaving Graceland, I decided I would go downtown Memphis and drive around a little bit, go through the Victorian Village, and then leave for Little Rock. I'd have to say my time at Graceland was very enjoyable. I don't regret the price of admission, and I have to anticipate that I'll be playing Elvis songs all the way to Little Rock. There's a Victorian house on the corner, which is the beginning of the Victorian Village. I'm going to pull over and take a look at one of these homes. This is the Mallory Neely House, which was built in 1852. Heading west from Memphis, getting ready to pass over the Mississippi River, I pass Mud Island, which is accessible by monorail. I remember Mud Island was involved in a chase scene in the movie The Firm with Tom Cruise,
which was made in 1993. Ann and I just rewatched that a year or so ago and enjoyed it as much the second time as the first. Calling up the nav screen, I decided to make a stop at the supercharger at Brinkley, Arkansas. While charging, I called a friend of mine that I went to business school with and told him I was going to be in Little Rock that evening and that I would love to see him at breakfast if that worked for him.
Bill said, "I've got a better idea. Why don't you join my wife and I and a friend you know for dinner and then stay over with us?"
The only problem was that it was 5 p.m. and his reservation was at 6:30, and I had not even gotten to Little Rock yet. So I turned back around and walked back to the McDonald's, went to the restroom, did a bird bath, put on a clean shirt, brushed my hair, and headed for Little Rock. And I walked into the restaurant only about 5 or 10 minutes late, so the timing was perfect. I must tell you that I had a wonderful evening. And as we wrapped up, Bill said, "We didn't have a chance to finish catching up. Why don't you come with me on my trip tomorrow and we can finish this?" Bill said it won't be a problem. We got plenty of seats on the plane and we can catch up on the way down and back and still have some time to visit while we're walking around the stores. I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Hattiesburg, Mississippi and Slidell, Louisiana." Well, Bill was very persuasive. And I guess after thinking about it and reminding myself that I promised to be spontaneous on this trip, I said, why not? So I made another audible, maybe a really big audible, because I had no idea of going to Mississippi and Louisiana on this trip, and said, let's do it.